Connie was 48 years old when she realized she had been cleaning other people's rooms for 14 years and did not own a single thing she could point to and say, "That is from the life I was building." Not a savings account with a number that felt like a foundation, not a plan that had a next step attached to it, not even a clear picture of what she was working toward, beyond the next shift and the next paycheck and the next month of keeping everything exactly at the level of not falling apart. 14 years. She had made up tens of thousands of beds. She had folded the corners of sheets so many times that her hands did it in her sleep. Her daughter had told her once, watching her mother's hands move under the blanket in the night. She had smiled at guests she would never see again and said good morning and meant it, because Connie was the kind of woman who meant the things she said, even the ones she said to strangers, even on the days when meaning them cost something. And she had almost nothing to show for any of it that would outlast the next missed paycheck. Every morning on the drive to the hotel, Connie asked herself a question. She had been asking it for years. It was not the question you might expect. It was not why she stayed. She knew why she stayed. She stayed because the job had health insurance and a steady schedule, and because finding a new job at 48 in a body that had already given a great deal to this one was not as simple as people who had not done it made it sound. The question she asked was something harder and more private than why she stayed. By the end of this story, you will know what the question was. And I believe that somewhere in your own life, in the quiet of your own drive, or your own early morning before anyone else is awake, you have been asking some version of it too. Connie Rose Tatum had worked as a room attendant at the same hotel for 14 years. She was responsible for 16 rooms per shift. 16 rooms, each of which contained, on any given morning, the evidence of how other people lived when they thought no one was watching. She had seen the full range of humanity in those 16 rooms, and she had developed, over 14 years, a generous policy of noticing without judging, which is harder than it sounds, and which she had come to believe was one of the more undervalued skills a person could possess. She was 48, medium height, with the particular quality of stillness that comes to people who work in spaces where quiet is required, and who have internalized the requirement so completely that they carry it with them everywhere. She spoke in a measured way that some people mistook for shyness, and that was actually something closer to deliberateness. She said what she meant, and she did not say more than she meant, and she had found, over time, that this approach was unusual enough to be remarkable. The thing you would notice about Connie, if you worked a shift alongside her, was her knees. Not the knees themselves, but what was on them. She had worn elastic support braces on both knees every single working day for 7 years, the kind with the open patella and the metal side stays, and she put them on in the locker room every morning before her shift, and took them off at the end, and by the time they came off you could see, clearly, the pink lines the elastic had left pressed into her skin during the hours of kneeling and bending and pushing the heavy cart from room to room. She did not talk about the knees. Her co-workers knew about the knees the way co-workers know things, through observation, through the sound of a woman's breathing when she stands back up from making a low bed. She had a prescription from a doctor that said she should not be on her knees for extended periods. She kept the prescription in her locker and went back to the rooms. She lived in a 2-bedroom apartment with her younger daughter, who was 22 and working and contributing to the rent in a way that helped both of them, without either of them having to say out loud that it helped. The older daughter was in Raleigh. They talked on Saturdays. The apartment was kept carefully, not in the way of someone performing tidiness for others, but in the way of someone who has spent years in rooms that were not hers and has particular feelings about the rooms that are. On the nightstand beside Connie's bed was a small spiral notebook with a green cover, soft from being handled so many times that it had lost its stiffness and curved naturally in the hand. She had been writing in it for 6 years. Every Sunday, without exception, she wrote one sentence. Not a diary entry, not a reflection on the week, not a goal or a prayer or a to-do list. One sentence about something she had noticed that week that was beautiful or surprising or worth keeping. The frost pattern on a car window on a cold Tuesday. The way her daughter laughed at something on her phone, unself-conscious, bright. The smell of rain on concrete in summer. The color of the sky at 5:45 in the morning on the drive-in, which was a color she had never seen described accurately in any book she had read. She called it, in her own mind, her noticing book. She had never shown it to anyone. It was the most private thing she owned, more private than her medical records or her bank statements or the prescriptions sitting in the locker. It was private because it contained the version of herself that she only visited on Sundays, the version that was not tired, that was not in a hurry, that had enough stillness to see things. It was private because it represented, without her having found the exact words for it yet, what she actually wanted her life to be. Slower, more attentive, full of the kind of noticing that her current life did not have enough room for. If something in that noticing book speaks to something you carry, something you take out only when no one is watching, this channel was built for that. For the private version of you. Stay with Connie. She is going somewhere. The breaking point arrived in the form of a body that had been sending signals for 7 years and finally stopped being polite about it. Connie was on the 9th floor, in room 917, changing the bedding on the king-size bed, the part of the job where you have to reach across the full width of the mattress to tuck the far corner, and her right knee gave out. Not slowly, not with warning. It simply stopped holding her, and she went down, one hand catching the edge of the mattress, the other hitting the carpet, and she knelt there for a moment in the posture of someone who has been asked an important question and is thinking about the answer. A guest in the hallway saw through the open door. She came in and asked if Connie was all right. She was maybe 35, in business clothes, with a kind face and the particular helplessness of someone who wants to help and does not know how. She said she could call the front desk. She said she could get someone. Connie said she was fine. She stood up, using the bed frame, and she finished tucking the corner, and she said good morning to the guest, and the guest said, "Are you sure?" And Connie said, "Yes, thank you, have a good day." She finished the shift. She drove home. She sat at her kitchen table. She opened her banking application and she looked at the savings account, the one she had been contributing to, with whatever was left at the end of each month, which was usually not much and sometimes nothing. The balance was $783. She looked at it for a long time, not with self-pity, with something more like arithmetic. 14 years of work. $783. She was 48 years old, and if the job ended tomorrow for any reason, including a knee that had finally stopped cooperating, she had $783 between her and whatever came next. She went to her bedroom. She sat on the edge of her bed. She picked up the green notebook. She opened it to the last entry from the previous Sunday. She had written, "The light coming through the window at 4 in the afternoon, the way it made the dust look like something intentional." She closed the notebook. She held it. She thought about the woman who wrote that sentence and the woman sitting on the bed with $783 and a knee that had given out in room 917. And she tried to understand how those two women could be the same person and whether they had to stay that way. In the pocket of the uniform she had not yet changed out of was the small laminated prayer card her mother had given her the year before she passed. The 23rd Psalm on cardstock with a blue border, laminated so it would last. She had carried it in her breast pocket every working day since the funeral. She touched it now without thinking, the way she always touched it when something needed steadying. She did not cry. She opened the notebook to a blank page. She wrote the date. She wrote one sentence, not the usual Sunday kind, just a fact. "Today I fell." She closed it. She put it on the nightstand. She went to make dinner. 3 weeks after the 9th floor incident, Connie went to a community health clinic for her knee, which she had been putting off because putting it off was easier than hearing the confirmation of what she already knew. She took a number. She found a seat. The waiting room was full in the particular way of community clinic waiting rooms, every chair occupied. A quiet solidarity among people who are all there, because something hurts or worries them, and because they have chosen, for whatever reason, this room rather than a more expensive one. Connie sat and looked at her phone and then looked at the wall. The woman next to her was reading an actual book, a paperback held in both hands, and she was reading it with the focused absorption of someone who has learned to make use of waiting rather than endure it. She was older, perhaps 71 or 72, with gray hair pinned neatly, and the kind of posture that does not come from youth, but from a decision made somewhere along the way that the body deserved to be held upright. After a while, she closed the book and looked at Connie and said, "Knee?" Connie said yes. The woman said hers too, the other one. She said she had been coming to this clinic for 6 years, long enough to know which chairs had the best support. She introduced herself as Miss Claudette. She had spent 32 years as a county clerk, same building, same department, and had retired at 66, and had been, she said with a particular quietness that was not quite sadness and not quite peace, figuring out what 32 years in one building had and had not prepared her for. Connie said she knew something about that. Miss Claudette looked at her. She asked where Connie worked. Connie told her. Miss Claudette nodded. She said, "How long have you been asking yourself whether it's time to go?" Connie looked at her. "How did you know I was asking that?" Miss Claudette said, "Because everyone in those jobs, at a certain point, starts asking it. The question is whether you let yourself hear the answer." Connie said she did not know what the answer was. Miss Claudette was quiet for a moment. A number was called. The chairs shifted. Outside, the light through the clinic windows had the flat quality of winter afternoon. Then she said, without drama, without decoration, the way she might state the current weather, "The job is not your life. It's just where your life has been renting space." Connie felt that sentence move through her the way certain sentences do, not quickly but completely, touching every room on the way through. Miss Claudette said nothing else about it. She opened her book again. They sat for another 40 minutes, and they talked about other things, about her grandchildren, about a recipe for sweet potato pie that was apparently common ground, about the particular endurance required to love a sports team in a losing season. When Connie's name was called, she stood carefully, and she thanked Miss Claudette for the company. Miss Claudette said, "Take care of that knee," and meant it. Connie drove home with the sentence folded inside her chest and the X-ray results in an envelope on the passenger seat, and a decision beginning to form that did not yet have a name, but that she could feel the shape of, the way you feel the shape of a room in the dark before you find the light. Connie did not quit the hotel, not yet, and not because she was afraid, though she was afraid, but because leaving without a direction was not a plan. It was just a different kind of being lost. What she did instead was start listening to the question she had been asking herself on the drive to work every morning for years. The question, the real one, the one she had never let herself fully hear. Am I renting space in my own life? That was it. Not why she stayed at the hotel, whether she had allowed the hotel, the shift, the 16 rooms, the elastic braces, to become the center of a life that had been built around accommodation rather than intention. Whether she had been so focused on keeping everything from falling that she had forgotten to ask what she was keeping it standing for. She started listening to the answer in 4 specific and practical places. The first was her body, which had been speaking clearly for 7 years and which she had been professionally ignoring. The doctor at the clinic had said the word deterioration, which was not a surprise but which was, when said aloud in an examination room, a different kind of weight than when it was a vague awareness she carried to work and set on the cart alongside the clean linens. She could not continue in the current physical conditions indefinitely. That was not a defeat. That was information. The difference between those two things was everything. She began to treat it as information and make decisions accordingly, which included filing a formal accommodation request at the hotel that she had been avoiding for 2 years and which, when filed, was granted within a week. The second thing she heard when she listened was in the noticing book. She sat with it one Sunday evening, and she read backward through the entries. 6 years of Sundays, 6 years of 1 sentence each. And what she found was not just a record of beautiful things noticed. She found a consistent direction, a recurring attention, a theme she had not seen when she was writing the entries, one at a time. Almost every entry, without her having planned this, was about learning, about watching someone do something well, about the clarity of understanding a thing you had not understood before, the ice on the window, the light at 4 in the afternoon. Again and again, she had been noticing the way things revealed themselves. She had been, without knowing it, writing the outline of what she wanted to do. And here is where the loop from the very beginning closes. Because the question Connie had been asking on the drive to work every morning was not, am I at the right job? It was, am I at the right life? And the noticing book, 6 years of it, had been answering her every Sunday. She had just not been reading the answer as an answer. The third thing she learned was about money, specifically about the 14 years of it, and where it had gone and what would need to happen for it to go somewhere different. She sat with her pay stubs and her bank statements, and she did not flinch from what she found. What she found was not that she had spent carelessly. She had not. She had spent on what was in front of her, on the rent and the food and the daughter's college application fees and the medications, and the years when her sister needed help, and the years when her older daughter needed help, and the years when the car needed something, and the year when it needed everything. She had spent on being a person who could be counted on, and being counted on had been, for a long time, the whole of the plan. She started building a different plan, one that counted her in it. The fourth thing was the hardest to admit, and it arrived not as a revelation but as an accumulation of small acknowledgments that eventually became impossible to avoid. She had been waiting for permission, not from anyone specific. From the general agreement of circumstances, from the sense that the right conditions would eventually present themselves and signal that it was acceptable for Connie Rose Tatum to stop renting space in her own life and start owning some of it. She had been waiting for the moment to feel safe before she moved. But safety, she understood now, was not a precondition for movement. It was something built by moving. You did not arrive at solid ground and then step forward. You stepped forward and the ground became solid under your foot. That was the whole sequence. That was the only sequence there was. She found a certificate program for English as a second language instruction at the community college. It was 2 evenings a week for 8 months. The cost was $460. She had $783 in savings. She registered. She paid. She sat in the parking lot of the community college after submitting the enrollment form, and she thought about the noticing book on her nightstand and the 14 years of Sundays, and she understood that she had not been wasting time. She had been preparing. She just had not known for what. 13 months. That is how long it took from the morning in room 917 to the morning Connie walked into her first teaching assignment. She did not walk out of the hotel immediately. She stayed for 9 more months while the certificate program ran, going to class on Tuesday and Thursday evenings, sitting in the front because the back filled up first, and because she had learned, by this point in her life, that sitting in the front was a choice that cost nothing and changed something. She was the oldest student in the room by at least 10 years, and she was also the one who asked the most questions, which was a combination she had once been self-conscious about and had decided, somewhere around week 4, to stop being self-conscious about. She applied for the accommodation at the hotel and was moved to a modified assignment that involved less kneeling. It was not the job she would choose. It was the job she could do while building toward the job she was choosing. She stopped treating those as contradictions. She built her savings back from the $323 that remained after the program enrollment, and she built them slowly, with intention, putting aside a fixed amount each payday that she had calculated based on actual numbers rather than whatever was left over, because whatever was left over had proven, over 14 years, to be a moving target that reliably moved towards zero. Fixed first, flexible second. That was the change, small in theory. In practice, it was the difference between savings that existed and savings that accumulated. The quasi desistencia came in the 6th month. She had a terrible week at work. Her modified assignment had been disrupted by a staffing shortage, and she had been sent back to a full floor with an apology and a promise it was temporary, and the temporary lasted 9 days. And by the end of the 9th day, her knees were vocal about it in a way she could not quiet. She drove home from class on a Tuesday night, the kind of tired that goes past the body into something closer to the soul, and she sat at the kitchen table in her coat because she did not have the energy to take it off. She opened her bag to put her notebook inside. Her hand found the green notebook instead. She took it out. She opened it to the most recent Sunday entry. She had written, "A woman in class tonight explained the subjunctive tense to someone who was struggling, and the moment they understood it, her face." That was all. That was the sentence. She read it twice. She closed the notebook. She held it against her chest with both hands, sitting in her coat in her kitchen at 11 at night, with a body that hurt and a savings account that was not what she had hoped, and 3 more months of the certificate program still ahead. She held the notebook. She did not put it down. She did not quit. She took off her coat. She made herself a cup of tea. She opened the notebook again to a blank page, and she wrote, "I am not renting anymore." Then she closed it and went to bed. The certificate program ended in May. She received the credential in an envelope that arrived on a Saturday, and she stood at her kitchen counter and read it, and then she called her daughter in Raleigh, and her daughter said, "Mom, I always knew you were going to do this." And Connie said, "I didn't," and her daughter said, "I know," and they stayed on the phone for a while, not saying much else, which was its own kind of conversation. She gave the hotel 2 months' notice in June. She said it without drama and without anger because neither was warranted. The hotel had been a room she rented. She was not angry at the room. Her first assignment was at a community center 4 miles from her apartment, 2 evenings a week and Saturday mornings, working with adult learners who were new to the country and needed English to work and navigate and belong. She walked into the room on the first morning and she stood at the front and she looked at the faces of the people who had come there to understand something they did not yet understand. And she thought about a community health clinic waiting room and a woman named Miss Claudette with a book held in both hands. And she introduced herself and said good morning and meant it in a way she had not meant good morning in a long time. It was a Saturday in the autumn, 4 months into the teaching, and Connie was at the community center early, before the students arrived, setting out materials at the worktables the way she had come to do every week, a routine she had built without planning to build it. A woman came in early. Not a student. She had the look of someone who had found the room by circling the building twice first and had almost not come in at all. She was maybe 46, with the coat pulled tight, and the expression of someone whose face had recently been doing work it was not designed for long-term. She said she had seen a flyer. She said she wasn't sure if this was for her. She said she had been working the same job for 11 years, and she couldn't explain what was wrong exactly except that every morning she drove to it, and something in her chest went the wrong direction. Connie looked at her. She did not offer a solution or a program description or a list of steps. She said, "Sit down." The woman sat at one of the work tables. Connie went to her bag and she took out the green notebook. She did not open it. She held it in her hands and she looked at it for a moment, the way you look at something that has been faithful to you and that you are about to trust someone else with. She said, "I kept this for 6 years, 1 sentence a week. Something I noticed that was worth keeping." She set it on the table between them. By the end of 6 years, I had accidentally written down exactly what I needed my life to look like. I just didn't know I was doing it. The woman looked at the notebook. She looked at Connie. She said, "How did you know when it was time to stop?" Connie thought about Miss Claudette, the waiting room, the paperback held in both hands, the sentence that had moved through her like a change in weather. She said quietly, "Someone told me something." She said, "The job is not your life. It's just where your life has been renting space." She let that land. The woman was still. Outside, the Saturday morning was coming through the windows in that particular autumn way that makes everything look considered, arranged. Someone in the hallway laughed at something. The building was filling up. The woman said, very softly, "I've been renting a long time." Connie nodded. She understood that. She understood it from the inside. She reached into the breast pocket of her jacket. Not the uniform. She had not worn the uniform in 4 months. The jacket of a woman who arrived somewhere early because she wanted to, not because the schedule required it. She took out the small laminated prayer card, the 23rd Psalm with the blue border, the one she had carried in her breast pocket through 14 years of hotel shifts. It was slightly worn at the corners. It was whole. She no longer kept it in a work pocket. She kept it in her wallet now, between her library card and her transit pass, among the things that went everywhere her life went, rather than the things that clocked in and clocked out. She had moved it there on her last day at the hotel, and she had not explained it to herself at the time. Now she understood what the move had meant. The 23rd Psalm was not a work comfort anymore. It was hers, all of it, including the valley, including what comes after. She held the card for a moment. She put it back. She pushed the green notebook across the table toward the woman. She said, "Start with one sentence. This week. Just one thing you noticed that was worth keeping. Don't make it a plan. Don't make it a goal. Just notice something and write it down." The woman looked at the notebook. She did not take it. It was Connie's, and they both knew it. But she sat up slightly, and something in her face changed by 1 degree, and that 1 degree was enough. The students began to arrive. The room filled with the sound of people who had come to understand something. Connie went to the front. She said, "Good morning." She meant it. If Connie's story reached something inside you today, something that has been making the wrong turn in your chest on the drive to work, something you have been calling stable when you know it has not felt like enough for a long time, then I want you to do one thing before you close this. Come down to the comments and write, Day 1. And then tell me one thing you have been noticing lately that you have not had the room to pay attention to. One thing, a sentence. It does not have to be beautiful or profound, just honest. Write it here where someone can see it. I read every single comment that comes in, and I will read yours. If you have a friend or a sister or a woman you love who drives to work every morning and asks herself a question she does not let herself answer, please share this video with her right now. She needs to know that the question is the beginning, not the problem, the beginning. And if this is your first time watching, then you are here at the right moment. This channel was made for women like Connie. Women who are capable and hardworking and who have given a great deal to rooms that were not theirs and who are ready to start building something that belongs to them. Subscribe, turn the bell on, and come back. There is more here for you. More stories, more women, more of this conversation that we deserve to have out loud. Thank you for watching all the way to the end. Take good care of yourself this week. Notice one thing. Write it down if you can. And remember, you are not the rent. You are the life.